good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon. I am a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch and a shop owner. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. We've got a little bit of a progress update on the RatRig V-Core 4.1 400 IDEX build for Abitnutz. We've made a lot of progress over the last few days, and sorry I haven't been streaming as much. I'm trying to stay on top of my health, and I'm already spending a lot more hours here at the shop, and my wife's getting on me about everything. So I'm trying to take a couple of nights off here and there and just pay attention to my health. But I hope everybody's doing well this evening. On another personal health note, I did go in today and have a follow-up on my sinus surgery, and everything's going good there, so I'm good to go. Doctor was very pleased with what she saw, so no, nothing's going to stop me from going to Murph in a couple of weeks. And I'd figure out the countdown, but Liz will jump in at some point and let me know. I know it's under 40 days. Probably, yeah, it's should be under 30 now. But I hope everybody's doing good. Hey, Tinkering Techie, how's it going? How's it going? Yeah, just chatting a little bit, getting a little bit of an update. So things around the store are doing good. Just been talking about, the health stuff, and, a lot's going on here. There's a lot that goes into operating a business and stuff, especially when you're a startup and entrepreneur. So I have not been streaming as much as I would like to. Some of that is just I'm still here late working on things. Sometimes it's a project like Abitnutz computer. Sometimes it's a customer project that we're trying to get a printout on, things like that. So calibrating the tool heads on the stealth changer. Well, you're still farther than I am on my stealth changer. I really need to do some work on the stealth changer. And yeah, just really need to get back to it. Like I said, I get to look at it daily, and it's just, I want to spend some time with it, but there's a lot of stuff going on at work, on the day job, not the storefront. So dealing with some of that. And then, yeah, there's a lot going on. So we've made a lot of progress on the Abitnutz build. In a second, I'll switch over the camera and we'll do a little walk around, so to speak, on the printer. But yeah, I just hope everybody's doing well this evening over in Twitch and YouTube land. And yeah. So if you have been having any problems with the calibration on the stealth changer, Tinkering Techie, or is it just time-consuming process? Mostly all sets of the nozzles. Okay. Yeah, I'll be having to work that out myself here in a little bit, because I mean, it's an IDEX. We're gonna have to figure out the X and Y and Z offsets. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well. But yeah, I think everybody's going to be a bit excited with where we're at right now. A few things I still need to work on, but we'll just say progress was made. There are some clips that I need to find and probably print out. Other than that, we're doing good. And all right, I'm beating around the bush. We now have somebody on both platforms. So without further ado, here she is. Once again, this is the RatRig V-Core 4.x, say 4.1. This is a heavily modified version. We've got aluminum deck panel versus the standard steel deck panels. We have Mandala Roseworks Z-axis mount plates, bed mounting plates, complete with kinematic bed mounts, mini Oldham couplers on all 3 lead screws. We've got Mandala Roseworks rear motor mounts for the XY and the hybrid. We've got Mandala Roseworks XY joints. We've got Mandala Roseworks 4.x spool head parts, specifically for the Luke's Laboratory tube hot end. We've got a tube air hot end on each of the 2 tool heads with a Bondtech CHT 0.4 millimeter nozzle, titanium heat shield on the lower end of the tube, and extruders are running LGX Light Pros. Hey, Pezliz, how's it going? Well, thank you for the lurk. Hey, Liz, real fast before you run out, what's the date? What's the countdown for Murph? Pretty sure you know that one off the top of your head. There are no Y belts installed just yet. The hybrid Y belts stay off until we're told to add them because we need to verify belt tension on the 2 tool heads, the XYs. Not enough. 24 days. Okay. All right. 24 days. Nice. I want to say we're staying at the Fairfield Inn again, which is right behind the Starbucks. I just did the oh, sorry, 1.5 millimeter GT 1.5 belts and 1.5 millimeter pitch tooth pulleys. Kraken motors instead of speedy power high temps. I've installed the umbilicals, which is not one continuous piece of spring steel piano wire. It is 2 200 millimeter lengths with 250 millimeter lengths of PTFE tube on each end. So it's kind of unsupported in the middle. I need to print out clips to clip the Bowden tube for the actual PTFE to the, or for the actual filament to the umbilicals. What else? Oh, you guys want to see the really, really cool part? Provided this camera hasn't frozen, which it does not appear to be. Let me turn this around so I can still keep an eye on chat somewhat. Wait for it. Wait for it. So, 48 volt power supply, 24 volt power supply. SSR, Octopus Pro 1.1 board, Raspberry Pi 4, the 2 toolhead boards, and then we added Wagos down here. We've got ground, load, neutral, and then 24-volt plus and minus. All of the grounds come into a common ground point. Load, neutral, same thing. Our left negative on each of these is directly tied together. And then we're going negative positive for 48 volts down into the motor power side to provide 48 volts to those tracking motors. And then we bring 24 volt down to our distribution points. And then we're bringing that back up. We've got power, bed power, and then our 2 tool heads. The bed out is coming down to the SSR. We have not plumbed the bed in yet. That is done afterwards. In fact, one of the next steps after I do a couple, we still need to install the VAOC. We'll have to pop some of these out to bring in the VAOC stuff, which is your camera. And then we'll be ready to start doing software. I will tell you, I have flashed RatOS, the latest version, to the Raspberry Pi. It is talking, can talk to the board. We'll work on that some more later on. You will notice that there is a piece of den rail down here. This is a printed section. It's called the bum bag, aka fanny pack, because this is normally called or referred to as a backpack. So this is the bum bag, aka a fanny pack. And I saw somebody actually had this up here and then a double thick one that basically comes all the way down at the bottom. We just really didn't need it. We didn't have that much additional extra stuff. By the way, hey T Moore and 3D Medic Vents on both platforms, welcome in. And what I've done is all of the motor wires that I had to, didn't have to, I have shortened all the wires necessary. So we shortened the wires here that needed to be shortened, and I used some of my heat shrink tubing to identify them. This is left Y1 base. This is a double spot. That is the third one, which would be a typical Z motor. So these two are in parallel. We skip that one. And then we get into Y2 right. And then we got, was it 0, 1, 2 for the Z's. Over on this side, I went ahead and put the thermistors for the 4 Kraken motors and basically hot end 0, 1, 2, and 3. We left the one down here for the bed because we will actually use that. We've got the fans over here. I shortened some of these wires, got them to the 3-into-1, one that comes out over here. So if you ever need to take this off to do some maintenance, you unplug this wire and you can take out these screws and this whole panel comes off to the side. Let's see. Routed the USBs back here for these two. The powers come around in here. They were cut a little bit shorter. And the umbilical cables come from the tool heads down, around, down the side, and plug in. And the original metal panel side will go down here on the bottom. And then there will be a cover that goes across the top, a vented cover. But yeah, we're pretty much there. We need to do VAOC, bed, and a couple of minor things on the tool head, like the ooze guards and the nozzle scrubbers. Those are the only things we really have left to do over there. Hey, Chewy, how's it going? Big Jenna, welcome in. Hope you're all doing well. Chewy, thank you for the 29 months in a row subscription. That is awesome, my bud. But yeah, the nice thing is there were some additional holes put in here in the back panel, but after doing some research, this electronics panel has the holes for the LRS, what was it, 250 24 volt power supply here. But I looked at the Discord, and there's actually provisions that you can mount the UHPs here. You come in from the back with a M3, and you use a lock nut on this side to lock it in. Little fiddly, but was able to get these mounted. And we got 4824. Yeah, and everything is tied in. For the most part, I used my, well, we got the Wagos, and I used my heat shrink fork connectors. You've seen me use these in the past. These are Wirefly heat shrink fork connectors. So you'll put these on the wire, and you'll put these on the wire, and on the front side, and it's a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of a seam here. That's where the metal's curled up. You need this part of your stripper. Okay, so the center part here, this rounded edge will go on that seam like so. Put your wire in, give it a good squeeze, and that's going to lock the wire in. Then you just hit it with some heat shrink that down, and it makes for a very good, secure, strong, and watertight connection as well. So I pretty much did that on all of this. I did keep the original mains wire from the switch and just bring those down into Wagos. I think this is 16 gauge, and then we're 20 gauge, or excuse me, not 20, 18 gauge for all the mains connections, and 18 gauge for all of the other connections as well. On the main side, I use silicone wire because that's what I had in the right colors. And then over on the DC side, we're going with black and red. I did use some of the existing wiring, and then where I needed to, I used 20 gauge FEP cabling. We are getting close. And hey, Abitnutz, how's it going? Well, thank you. I hope you like that. Yeah, watertight was not required, but it is a little bit of added protection because it's heat shrunk on there. Just having a crimp connection, if for whatever reason that crimp fails over time, or if there's any exposed wire, it's an arcing hazard. So I like to do these connectors. It takes a tad bit more time, but it's worth it for me. Hey, Brian Guthrie, how's it going? Any plans to cover the mains? Well, these do have the plastic covers on them, and yes, the designer of the bum bag does have a piece that will mount on these 3 studs that covers the mains and down into here as well. So there is a plan to add that cover. I'm also going to see if we can't put that friction fit cover that goes right here to direct these 2 fans over the stepper drivers, especially since we're running 4 5160s at 48 volts. We want to make sure that we're good there. And like I said, Abitnutz, we've got 48 volt coming in, and these are labeled. I did try and label all of these using some heat shrink label material that I have. I did not shrink those labels down just because they're fairly tight as it is, and it's really no need to. And it becomes a major pain in the butt if you ever have to redo a wire and shorten it. This way, even if you have to make a wire longer, you can, slide that off and move it around without having to try and do something else. Thanks for the alert, Diablo Spawn, and welcome in. But yeah, we're 48 volts here, 24 volts, 24 volts. This is our bed out, and it actually says SSR. And then over here on the SSR side, it says bed out, so you know which connector it goes to. We are not, words. I did not run the power down here on the GPIOs. The way it works is there's a 2x5 pin up here. And even if I searched around and found that particular cable, I would have to repin it because it is, this board, because it's a Pro, has a different pin out on this 2x5 connector up here. But what you're essentially doing is grabbing 2 5-volt and 2 grounds from this connector, bringing it down, going into the GPIOs and going 5-volt ground, skipping 3 pins and going into another ground. And that way you're powering your Raspberry Pi through the GPIO. And here's a thing, okay? And this is an important thing that I think is missed by a lot of people. And I think it goes for the Raspberry Pi 4s, but definitely on a Raspberry Pi 5, okay? I was just setting up a network attached storage system. I'll post a picture of it later. It uses a Raspberry Pi 5. Here, let me switch cameras real. You're going to see the messy table that I try and hide over here, possibly. It uses a Raspberry Pi 5 and a RADSA Pentahat, which allows you to run 5 SATA drives. It can be spinning disk 2.5 inch, it can be solid state, it can be 3.5 inch, whatever. Hey Waters, how's it going? What I found, because the way I've got it configured, I boot. So the boot partition is on an SD card. The root partition, so everything it does a lot of writing, is on a USB drive, okay? And as soon as I started running the Pentahat, which powers the Raspberry Pi through the GPIO pins, it was failing to boot, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, now I know why. On a Raspberry Pi 5, definitely, I think it happens on the 4 as well. When you power the Pi through the GPIO, it limits initial USB power to under 600 milliamps. Okay? So that could be leading to why people are having disconnect errors, because even the WaveShare hub that we had directly plugs into the Raspberry Pi. It is powered through the Pi, which means that's additional load on the Raspberry Pi. And if you're powering it through the GPIO pins, you're limiting the power on boot up that's available, which means as your Clipper and everything's booting up, it's not able to talk to the tool heads, and that's why you might be getting a bunch of disconnect errors. So what Abitnutz had already asked for was he wanted to power the Raspberry Pi from a wall wart. That way he could shut the printer off and keep the Raspberry Pi on, right? They're not dependent on the same power source. How's it going, Waters? Hope you're doing well tonight. We were looking at the RatRig. Before I switch the camera again, I'll turn this back around. Okay. Now let's switch the camera over. Go back to the bench side. So yeah, that is something that's going to be a good thing. That was a hard-fought multi-night 2-3 a.m. in the morning doing research stuff before I found that out. So once again, here we are. We don't have the bed in place, and that's fine because when you start the actual commissioning process, it's going to tell you to lay the bed on its top. You're not supposed to have the magnet or anything, just lay the base plate down with the pad on. And basically what they're telling you to do is plugging in the thermistor of the bed so that it doesn't take an ADC out of range error and it will actually start up. Okay? Clipper will actually start up. I'm going to go one further and not even bring the bed out, and I'm just going to grab one of the like 40 spare thermistors I have and just plug it into the back. Yes. So I put the RatRig braces up here and down below. One, I kind of like the aesthetics, and two, to me they work great. We did take off some of the other braces that you had in place just because wiring's supposed to go there. And if we don't put the wiring there, then we have to find a bunch of alternatives. The one brace that's back here blocked this hole where all of the motor wiring would go. You can bring it, through the bottom hole and then up. But that means either drilling a hole or printing the larger of the bum bags that I found. And that would be low enough to have that hole so you could bring that right in and run it up. Yeah, I decided to go standard RatRig. With that back panel and the electronics back there, that is sturdy, trust me. The ACM panels do a lot to sturdy this thing up. But everything is done up. I still need to do some zip ties on the tool head as well. But I'll zip tie up around here and here. And then, yeah, everything else is attached. Because we went with different mounts, I basically unscrewed the top O2S board mount, unscrewed that, put the piece of piano wire between the standoff and the back plate, and then tightened everything back down again. So that's what's holding the front end, and with a couple of zip ties around here, it should be perfectly fine and not go anywhere. What's going on, Waters? Need to ping me with any updates. All right, you just add a bunch of the other ones for transport. Gotcha. Gotcha. Some of them make sense. Some of them I flipped the orientation. So you've got these corner braces here, which really need to come out because some of them are fouling on other parts that are in here. These corner braces and these rear ones here, you had them with the flat side on the inside, and that was making it difficult to do some things. So I basically flipped them around to the outside. But it's She's pretty rigid. She's pretty rigid. We've got both of the spool holders in. We've got our continuous PTFE tubes in place. And I do have little clips down here. This is a mod that I printed up that takes this same style clip but makes it so that it can go on the vertical tube here. And that way it holds this end. I'm going to print some of these for my own rat rig because these things kind of go all over the place if you don't. But yeah. Use a high quality 25 watt buck converter, fixed all your issues with disconnect. Buck converter's got a bad rap because people were using cheap. Yeah. Okay, sounds good, Tinkering Techie. Yeah, and I do have a 5 watt power supply. That was another option, was adding in the other 5 watt power supply on the main side of things and powering that into the Raspberry Pi. I would suggest if you do that, and I've done this on several of my systems, go into the USB-C port and bring that cable in to your buck converter or your power supply. Because once again, if you're coming in through the USB-C port on a Raspberry Pi 4 and definitely on the Pi 5, it lets you do the full amperage. If it only kicks in when you come in through the GPIO ports, because it can't guarantee that the power that's being provided can provide the amperage, so it limits it. And there's a way to get around that. You have to go and change stuff in the EEPROM firmware on the Pi, but you can do that. Hey, DIY Fought. This is, hey, Projects in Dad's Garage, how's it going? This is the RatRig V-Core 4.1, 400 size. So this will be a 400 by 400 by 400 build. This belongs to Abitnutz, who's in chat. He is, sorry, I just saw your other comment over on the other side. He is a channel subscriber for a while. He lives up in Ohio. Him and his wife drove down to bring me this project so that I could finish it for him and a few other things. Hey, Jano. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn this around now. And I love this table, by the way. This is where the Venture XL is going to get built and live, by the way. And we'll show off the back again. So, bring everybody in a little bit closer. So, because we're running Kraken motors, and we can, we've swapped out the stock LRS 250 24 volt power supply with a pair of power supplies. We've got a UHP 48, or excuse me, UHP 350 48 and a UHP 350 24 volt. So this is running the 4 5160 drivers that we have here going to the gantry. And then the 24 volt is running the 3 Z motors and our tool heads. %, stock rat rig, yeah. With a few accoutrements. So, like I said, I trimmed some of these wires down and I used some heat shrink brother labeling material to go ahead. While I had the wires bare, I was able to get it slipped on here. I did not shrink these down. That way, if we need to do any other work on here or switch things around or do something crazy, use it in another project, you can. These 4 wires up here, these are the thermistors for the motors. I have it currently set up in T0, T1, T2, and T3. TB is the bed. That's the one that'll be down here. We've got a 24 volt right here for the 3 side fans. There'll be a 24 volt right up above it. That is the fan for the VAOC. By the way, I keep saying VAOC. That is a CXC camera that gets installed in a printed mount that has basically a sex bolt installed, so that you can tap both nozzles and understand the Z offset, and then you use the camera to find the XY offset and dial that in for calibration. We have a printed part down here. Currently, it is just held on here with 4 screws coming back into the top mount here. I have not done any penetrations to the ACM yet. I don't think it's going to be needed because we're not putting a lot of weight down here. If we're going to add the other power supply and stuff, I would probably drill at least the bottom 2 holes and add additional bolts in there through the ACM. But all we have is some printed mounts. I didn't like the way the standard mount would hang from the bottom of this, which means your USB cables are going right in front of this fan, which blocks a lot of its air that's supposed to be moving over here. So I print up different DIN mounts, put them down here. We've got our ground, load, neutral, and then 24 volt positive and negative. Yeah, fellow Ohioan. And for Murph, we got to figure it out. If I'm close enough in the build stage, we may drop this on the way, or it might be a reason for him to head to Midwest RatRig Festival and pick it up there. You're about to, please don't have a stroke. I wasn't sure there would be enough ports. Oh yeah, no worries. I was going to try and do it directly on the Pi without doing additional ports. If I needed to, I would have done that, but I think we're good here because we're not adding anything else. Even if we do add a one of the displays, it'll probably just be with a very, very long ribbon cable down and underneath or something. Hey, Matt Owl, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Projects in Dad's Garage. I saw that you streamed today, and I didn't notice it in time. You were already offline by the time I noticed that you had streamed today. Did you get the gantry put together? Doesn't have to be hung, but did you at least get the gantry put together? Hey, for Ethan. Whatever you do, Heathen, don't look at this messy wiring. Don't look at this messy wiring. It's horrendous. It is just straight up horrendous. It's routed pretty well. And I will tell you this, it took me forever because I had to find these clips. And these clips are a larger height than the normal clips would be. And there should have been these clips in the kit. I just hadn't found them yet because I guess they're nylon injection molded now. So trying to find a printable clip that works on these was a pain in the butt. But I finally found it, and the one I found actually happened to be a taller one, which helps with these umbilical cables. Thanks, Ethan. Made every designer in China look sick. Well, thank you for the kind words there. So like I said, we still have to move this back some. We still need to do the VAOC, which is, like I said, just the calibration camera. We'll have to do the bed wiring, of course, because that's still not on there. Abitnutz, it's up to you. We can leave this as it is, and I'll print some clips that we can clip these together to help keep them tamed a little bit. Or they do provide some split loom that you can put over your PTFE tubes. I have this on mine. The only downside is if it ever breaks. Once again, this is one long continuous piece. Trying to figure out where it is and what side is kind of a pain if you do put that on. But I'm going to let you guys hold that thought, and I'll be right back. Figure what I'll do is come out here and get the bed so we can see what the bed will look like sitting on there. Once again, this is an N2O graphite bed. We'll need to plumb in, okay. I will need to plumb in another thermistor into this. But let's see if I can't get that laid in there. You need 2 box turtles for this? Yeah, you could do a box turtle on each one. RatRig did say that that is one of the things that they were potentially looking at, was some type of MMU style for this. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'll just look for the clips, and they're easy enough to print out. You just turn this on, and the den rail bum bag was my design work. So glad to see. Well, awesome, DFW. Awesome. Yeah, I was debating, do I do just a bum bag, or do I do, there was a remix that added a extended version below, and they used the original version above, and I was like, that's a lot of extra space. One of these days you're going to show up while I'm streaming. Come on down. Yeah, the length of the heat pipe on the tube is not conducive to it. Yeah. Well, and just the overall length of the PTFE tubes as well. It is not that conducive. But yeah, this is a very, very pretty bed. And like I said, I need to install the 2 nozzle wiper pieces, and I need to install the other nozzle pieces as well, the ooze guards, which might get interesting because I just realized there's not much room right there for much anything. So we might have a crash with an ooze guard if it comes all the way forward. But your printer with all the extra space, yeah. If I switch to the A4T from takeoff, I'm going to try to put the turtle box back on. So Projects in Dad's Garage, I'm not sure if you were here because I know that you were taking a lot of disconnect errors. Is that a Raspberry Pi 4 or a Raspberry Pi 5 in your Trident? Both tubes have a 0.4 CHT nozzle. I ordered 2 from KB3D, and I just realized that my camera froze, and not only did it freeze, but it like took a nap on me. See if we can wake it back up. There we go. So, Bondtech CHT nozzles. Yes, there we go. 0.4. So they're both set up the same way. Hey, thanks, Droid Insanity. Welcome on in. High 5. Okay. Are you powering it off GPIO? There are new Z constraints that will help. Okay. That worries me now, but we'll see if it becomes an issue. Hope you're doing well, Droid Insanity. Welcome on in. So I was building a NAS, and I'll have to take a picture and post it up on Discord or X or something. But I was using a Raspberry Pi 5, and the way I configured it was to boot off of a SD card, and then the root file partition is on a USB solid state drive. And it worked fine plugged into the Raspberry Pi as soon as I was running it with 12-volt power going through the pentahat, the RADSA pentahat, it wouldn't boot, and I couldn't figure out why. When you power it through the hat is powering the Raspberry Pi through the GPIO pins. And a Raspberry Pi 5, when you're providing power via the GPIO pins, will limit it to 600 milliamps. So it could be what's causing the random disconnects that you were having. I would highly suggest routing the power through the USB-C and seeing if that gives you any problems. You don't see any good reason to power anything off the Pi. Well, but the problem is, I mean, yes, it should not be providing power through any of the cables connected to the Raspberry Pi 5, but you cannot rule out that 5-volt power is not getting pulled through the USB unless you block the power pin on all your cables. But yeah, like the way we've got it configured right now, it should just be data only. Nothing should be drawing a 5-volt through the Raspberry Pi 5. I hope. But yeah, it's just something to think of, and something I didn't, you know, it was one of those obscure things that I found at like 3 a.m. So also whoever it was that said there, so Zim. So other heads up here are XY joiners are Mandala CNC units. So I did find these parts, and I only found one. I tried to mirror it, and I'm not sure if the geometry is not the same between these two. So just mirroring it doesn't do it for both sides. So I'm going to have to figure out a way of designing the right side, because I could not find the right side for toolhead 1. So that's kind of where I'm at. I need to do a little bit of zip tying up here. We need to figure out the ooze guards. We need to mount the nozzle scrubbers on each side. And then we're on to the bed. And like I said, that bed, when you do the initial turn on, which will allow you to flash all of the boards, I'm just going to put a thermistor into the bed thermistor spot, because basically what they're telling you to do is just sit this on the deck panel and plug in the thermistor so that you can do the beginning part of the software commissioning side. Hey Pete, how's it doing today? We're just sitting here talking about the progress that has been made on the RatRig. We are getting very close to powering some things on. We've got some pretty wiring back here. Whoops. We got some pretty wiring going on back here. We've added the bum bag. Like I said, right now, I've just attached the bum bag with, I think these are M3x8 button head screws, which pretty much go all the way through. 10s did go all the way through, so I went to 8s. I have nothing going through the ACM panel now, because I literally just have 2 ding clips, 4 ding clips. There's no real weight on it. So I think we're fine there. We'll put the panel on here. We'll take the metal panel that normally would go here, and it'll go down at the bottom. There is a shield plate designed to go over this area. I just need to print it out and attach it to these 3 standoffs, and that's good. But I literally just finished all this wiring up this afternoon before the stream started. So yeah, we're like getting close. We'll get this shield on. We'll get the shield over the top here to route the airflow from these 2 fans over these stepper drivers, and we'll be ready to start. I don't want to start it up tonight, so I feel like I got a late start, but we will, was it Tuesday? I'll look at trying to get the last couple of things done that would be needed before we do the first power on. Yeah, we're going to see if the 1.5 GT belts do anything. I mean, it shouldn't do anything with like input shaping or anything like that. It'll be in print quality, but we'll have to see. What kind of BTUs does this put out? It can put out a lot of heat. So once again, we've got a UHP 350/48 driving the 4 gantry motors. These are 5160 drivers with the red heatsink. And then a UHP 24 volt, once again 350, that's feeding the Z drives, the main board, our tool heads, which are tube hot ends, right? With LGX Light Pro extruders. We did go with the O2S boards because that's a requirement of the 4.1 firmware, the way it's set up. Give me 2.1, RatOS 2.1. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got the 1.5 GT. When I swapped out the motors, I did swap out the pulleys on said motors, and we got all the new belts run with 1.5 GT. We'll do the, once again, you do the initial commissioning process, and you'll do your belt resonance testing with just the XY motors in it. If everything's still the same way, because you need to get your belts as close to tensioned the same for the two tool heads. Then you'll add the Y belts, because otherwise it throws things off. Yeah, it was just another thing. Why not throw something else in there? Looking for a stock motor unit with 1.5 to reduce variables and pinpoint cause of VFA. Yeah, we're not stock motor either. But yeah, this is a pretty nice build. It's been nice because it's helped me kind of get back into this part of the build, which is going to be needed soon, because I should have the other printer on the way soon. I got to reach out to Hector at Fabrico and see when it's coming in. Is there a tool that tells you how tight the belts are, or you just got to feel it? The commissioning guide will tell you how to check the belt tensions for this particular printer. Normally, pull everything forward, move it back, center your tool heads, and you want 150 millimeters between the shaft of the front pulley and the shaft of the pulley on the X gantry. Okay, so 150 millimeters of belt. You strum each side using an app, and you're trying to get them to match as close as possible. That's your initial dial-in. Then you can start using tools like belt resonance tester, and it will help you dial that in even more. It'll also help you determine if you failed to put Loctite on something, or you got something loose. Yeah, this build is a very, very, very deep hole. Abitnutz, do you have panels for this, or are you going to put panels on this? I mean, basically, he's got every mod that Mandala Roseworks has made for the RatRig so far. It's here. He's got the, I think this is an N2O bed, and my camera froze again. Awesome. No, my camera went to sleep. Why is that? Sorry, folks, for I don't know if I keep saying a phrase that it doesn't like or what, but This is, I think you said it was an N2O graphite bed. It's a thicker bed. So we're going to lose a little bit of the Z height. But yeah, it's a very nice setup. BQ belt tension meter is a really needed tool for verifying tension left to right. I do have, I think it's the PF tool that was pre-built and calibrated. I don't have the BQ tool, but you can use those tools. I've traditionally done it with the megahertz sound app. Yeah, Mandala Rose panel, 6mm aluminum sandwich. They got ACM panels. Okay. Oh, you can move it with panels on, just nowhere near as easy. You've got hold points on it right now, but as soon as you put panels on it, it doesn't move nearly as easy. Because trust me, I've moved my 300 with panels on, and me and Evil Diesel, it's a mess. But yeah, at some point we will move that from the, we'll move my RatRig from the house down here. Still not looking forward to it because it's upstairs. We'll have to move it downstairs to get it here, but yeah. So a few more things we need to print. And like I said, we need to put the VAOC. And I'm going to have to do some looky-loos because I've seen that there are different printed parts for the VAOC on the Mandala Roseworks bed arms. But I've also seen that a lot has changed in the parts that I don't know. We'll put it that way. So yeah, you can get casters on them, definitely. Yeah, I was asking which Pi you had on the Trident, and were you powering it through the GPIO or through the USB-C? And I'm going to come over here. Sit down and get a little comfy. Scotty has beamed him up. USB-C on the Pi 5, okay. Yeah, I was finding that when you power, especially a Raspberry Pi 5 through the GPIO pins, that it will limit the power through the GPIO pins because it can't guarantee the wiring and the quality of the power that's being sent to it. It assumes it's going to be a dirty power source. So I think it limits it to like 600 milliamps. Well, and I've literally got those leveling casters on that rolling bench. That's why I'm able to roll around, is I have the leveling casters on. Correct, correct. Yeah, the 300 RatRig is a monster beast to try and move, and the 400, it'd be hefty. But yeah, I do have parts here for the camera. I'm not sure, were these where is that? I've got the standard parts for the for the God, words. I've got the parts for the ooze guards. I've got the wiring for the VAOC. A random tool head wiring cable set that we won't need because the tool heads are already wired up. What I'm looking for would be the Chicago bolt and the rest of that stuff. Oh, this is the old tool head part. I'm going to put that in there. Probably in the, oh, probably. It might be in the 4.1 upgrade box. I'll have to go look for that and try it out. There's a paper that talks about USB power via GPIO. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do, was show off to everybody everything I had been working on and where we stand today. Yeah, we're gonna have to try and figure out the last few things. I'm gonna have to dig around and root around in the bins to find the rest of the parts for the VAOC. I've got the camera, but I'm gonna need like the fan and the toggle bolt and stuff like that. So I'm sure it's here. I think I've seen it already. I just have to find it again, and then I'll start putting that together, and hopefully this one works and I shouldn't have to go and print out new parts. But yeah, kind of where we're at. I got in oh, the other thing that I did, your fans that we had with that Abitnutz, I swapped those out. I ordered a bunch of Delta fans after the last stream, and those came in. So you've now got 4028 Delta fans. I believe it's 17.5 or 17.7 cubic feet per minute at 50 decibel. 24 volt. So we don't even have to put a jumper on the O2S board. Yeah, so that's going to be a nice addition. That should provide plenty of cooling. And don't worry, I got 10 of them. So I'll be able to swap some of them into, I'll swap some of them into mine as well and see if that's the issue that I'm running into on my build. Yes, I did order Delta fans. So yeah, I went to DigiKey and got them. So 4 wires, so they're just like the others. So they're TACO and PWM. So they can be monitored and PWM controlled. So that'll be good. Yeah, we're getting close. We are getting very, very close. Can I bring you 2510 fans to Murph? Like Honey Badger 2510s? And how many? Because yes, I can. Yeah, just ping me and let me know how many you need. 2? Okay. We can do that. Yeah, I will tell you that my RatRig is obnoxiously loud, right? Especially when you first start it up and the fans kick on until, it's a safety feature. The fans go full bore until Clipper fully is up and running. Am I getting a Rapido X? I would love to get a Rapido X. I did not apparently make it into the beta group, and I have not received pricing, like reseller pricing from Fetus. So I'm gonna have to reach out to my Fetus contact. I do have pricing for purchasing the Creator 5 and Creator 5 Pro, but I need to reach out and ask for clarification on, excuse me, on shipping timelines. Like, I don't want to go and think a couple of grand in new printers and then be told, okay, it's going to be there in like 90 days. So, oh yeah, when the panels are on, it's not nearly as loud. Very true. Very, very true. It's just until you have the panels on, or if you have the front panel off and it kicks on, like when you're testing in a small room, yeah, it'll make some noise. It will make some noise. All right, folks. Well, as you can see, I'm a bit tired. I am going to go ahead and call it for the night. Sorry, something is flying around in here with me. Give me a sec. Huh. Um, hmm. Sorry, folks. I've got to take care of something. At least corral it for. Yeah, might be a carpenter bee. Not good in a building of this age. They tend to come in packs of more than one. Oh yeah, thanks, Zimzed. Very quiet, especially when it's in a sealed basement room. There you go, Bitnuts. Even better. You're trying to find a hide in with more flow than ratio. More flow ratio than 2 UHF. But that will still work on an A4T. Well, I'm glad you made it home safely, Pez Liz. Glad you made it home safely. We are getting ready to call it a night, and I am going to try and make it home safe. Between Dayton and Cincy and Waynesville. Okay. Okay, I think the route that my GPS was telling me today takes me up around Columbus. Rapido 2 UHF, sorry. No problem. I will, Eagle. I'll be careful when I head home. Cool. So everybody, I am going to call it an evening. Let me see. Is our good friend Big Jano streaming? Does anybody know? Got a zombie, a Hall of Tech. No Jano. No, wait, there is a Jano. He is starting. Can't avoid passing by where you are. Yeah, we'll figure something out a bit, nuts. We'll figure something out. So, I'm sorry, not zombie. Zach and Rutledge is going. We have Hall of Tech hanging out, chatting. Let's see, is she doing a printer build? Yep, she's doing a printer, or not a printer build, a PC build. Got Astro Canuck. Be looking. Tell us your next stream. The next stream should be Thursday night, sometime between 7:30 and 8, starting off. Unless something really goes crazy haywire at work, should be able to do that. Yeah, and at that point, I should have the big stopping point here would be the getting the VAOC done, because that's going to have to be plumbed into the back. And once we get that built and in place, then we should be good to go from there to do, to get into the next couple of steps. So yeah, I think that's the next thing of where we're at. We got about 2 minutes until Jano kicks on, unless he starts early. Yeah, VAOC. Let me check the guide. Ooze guards. We can get those ready and figure out how to get those mounted or not. Electronics is done, except for only thing would be the VAOC. I'm not even sure if that's even. It doesn't even appear to be in the box. These strips are high. There we go. So yeah, we'll need to do the VAOC wiring and build. So Great. It shows you installing the wiring, setting the fan on the bottom just so you can finish up the wiring, actually build the VAOC in another section. That's about we build the V. How about we build the VAOC module? Then we actually plug it in. All right, so that'll be the next step, is doing that part. And like I said, right now I'm missing it, at the very least, the Chicago bolt. That's wiring. Wiring. We've got the ports, except for that. So, yeah. So I think we're good. Jano is about to start. As soon as I see him pop up on the screen, I will go ahead and get a raid started. And those of us over on the Twitch side will be able to raid over to Jano. On YouTube side, we'll just we'll end the stream. No, love a good Jano raid. Yeah, I have raided into him before he's jump on to the screen, but I prefer to wait. And there he is. There he is. He's starting his deal. Raid set up for Big Jano. Spelled everything right. Looks like I did. Everybody. Oh, how about if I put it in the right window? That helps when you put it in the right window. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being. Actually, did not go through. There we go. I did it right this time. I will, Eagle. So thank you everybody for being here. It's been a great night just sitting here chatting and catching up. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me, and the interest in this build has been great. Thank you, Abitnutz, for bringing this and giving me a chance to work on it. You don't recall seeing those bolts either? Yeah, well look, hey Killer Prince, how's it going? We are getting ready to raid out into Big Jano on the Twitch side and in the stream. I will be posting up some pictures of the RatRig build and the electronics that I got done over the last few days. So right now, we're going to raid over to Jano. Those of you that are on YouTube, we will chat again later. Have a great evening, and I will talk to everyone again soon. Take care.